been at NYU for 38 years, and all of my 3 degrees are from NYU. So I bleed purple, if you can believe that. The conversation today encompasses many of the conversations I have, including, and conversations, I mean classes I teach. African American cinema, the freshman class, The World Through Art at Tisch, and my advanced all-school, all-university class called The Anatomy of Difference. So this is a weaving of all of those conversations together to talk about the politics of art. I have learned over the years through filling in the gaps of our incomplete American history, although I proudly wear the American flag. And what I've learned is to acknowledge where we are. And so I want to start by respecting the history of the Lenape people who occupied this land. They were the indigenous people who lived here in what is called present-day New York. When Europeans arrived in the Americas, this was the Lenape homeland, known as Lenape-Ho-King, which is upper and lower Delaware, Hudson River valleys, 5 of the counties in New York, and the boroughs of present-day New York. All of this was Lenape land. And the word Manhattan derives from the Lenape word Manhattan, right? And you can look that up. And actually, NYU has had a lot of projects to remind us of what this land is. It's essential to remember our history, all of our history. And recently at a conference, I was engaged with this quote, and I bequeath it to you. It's from George Erasmus. Where common memory is lacking, where people do not share the same past, there can be no real community. Where community is to be formed, common memory must be created. And what I know before I met this quote is that art creates common memory. When we sit and watch a film together, when we engage with art together, no matter where we're coming from or who we are engaging in a conversation together, and from that point, creating common memory. Creating common memory is also one of the great benefits of education, right? In addition to the learning that is going to take place in the classroom, there is the learning that we are going to have with each other. Teacher to student, student to student, we are going to learn a great deal from each other, right? This is not just an opportunity, it is in fact a privilege to learn from someone else about other parts of our country and about other parts of the world. Thus we'll begin a journey of creating common memory and filling in the gaps for each other at New York University. As I said, art helps us create common memory. And I want to also say that all art is political. Some because of what they have in, some because of what they omit, but all art is political. And all artists consciously or unconsciously reflect the visible and invisible world around them. And by invisible world around them, I mean history. Some of our history is visible, some of it is invisible. But how do we as spectators of art, consumers of art, see the politics in art, right? Let's think about different works of art and how they reflect or resist the social and cultural politics of the times. Edward Degas says that art is not what you see as an artist, it is what you make others see. So I want to go and think a little bit about this phrase, and you'll see where it came from, right? The idea that I mentioned, that where common memory is lacking, where people do not share in the same past, right? There can be no real community. Where community is to be formed, a common memory must be created. And this is George Erasmus is the person, this is his place in the world in his title. So I want to look at a work of art that was created as a way of showing you and embodying this idea of arts politics, the department I teach in, and the notion of all art being political. This piece of art is overtly political, but I want to inform you that all art is political, and after today you'll be looking at how art is political and why it's political. So let's take a look at this, and we'll continue talking.
They call it a pipeline, but those on the front lines know that black snake was sent for us to grow, to shed the skin our ancestors pray, of wounds old and calloused, so that we may stay, so that we may unite, unity our tool. No weapons are found in this court of rule. Men becoming ki'ais, steadfast in their guard, protecting women's hearts as their song become roots, roots to cast out healing for all sentient beings, to honor sacred mother, heart forward we heal. The salmon will run, the Mauna will breathe, the rivers will flow. The rainbow is here and prophecy tells us all generations will hear.
Stand up with the First Nations and our people that been living here for thousands of years. Stand up. We've been fighting for our freedom since the Nina and the Pinta and the Santa Maria. Stand up. Like Geronimo, Sitting Bull, Red Cloud, Crazy Horse, Leonard Peltier. Stand up. Now they poisoning the waters for our sons and our daughters, so we on the frontier. We won. One nation, one cause, one people, one tribe. Now it's us against the pipeline. Get on your feet for Standing Rock, and we'll show you how strong we could be when we unify.
To all my native people, recognize yourself, keep your head up. To all my tribal people, recognize yourself, keep your head up. To all my native people, to all the original people, to all my indigenous people, recognize yourself, keep your head up.
Stand up, 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 stand up.
From the beginning we was winning this game on planet Earth. It's been spinning, we've been living and dying, but giving birth, the first of many nations. Celebrating them days when all that got made came after what God made. These days we cater to these internet memes, internet streams. It seems them streams aren't clean. We need the whole story seen. We're hassling before water has gasoline in it. Malcolm X moment, Martin Luther King with a dream and war boning. Wounded knee plus Alcatraz, doggone it. This is for the rock, with prayers we stand on it.
Oh yeah, we playing on it, the earth we camp on it. In a sweat lodge singing our songs with grandfathers. Heat rocks all in the spot, we splash on them with a beatbox from my boy, we jam on it. Said a prayer for the black snake killers. Praying on the front lines, they you're the realest. Stand for your people, stand for your family. Stand with Standing Rock, stand for humanity. Hey.
It takes a group of people who actually care about, Mother Earth and life and water being sacred and the land being sacred to say, we stand up.
To all my native people, recognize yourself, keep your head up. To all my tribal people, recognize yourself, keep your head up. To all my native people, to all the original people, to all my indigenous people, recognize yourself, keep your head up.
Stand up, 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 stand up.
Mini Wachoni, water is life.
Mini Wachoni.
Water is life.
Water is life. Water is life.
Water is life.
I stand
I stand with Standing Rock.
I stand with Standing Rock. I stand with Standing Rock. Stand up. Stand up.
Stand up.
Stand up.
I stand with Standing Rock. Stand up.
To all my native people, woke up the giant, we won't go quiet. To all my tribal people, don't mistake our peace as we stand defiant. To all my native people, it's the calm before the storm and I can hear it coming. To all my tribal people, I'm ready for the battle when we ain't running.
Stand up, 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 Standing Rock, Standing Rock, stand up, 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 Standing Rock, Standing Rock.
Standing Rock, we're standing feet as history is on a sad repeat. Is it liberty or we just acting free as our land depletes from these hands of greed? See, fate is found, how we face the hounds. Take a vow for these sacred grounds. Make a sound that'll shake them out. Say aloud, what can save us now?
What can save us now? Stand up.
Awesome. Yep, thank you. So, stories are important. And more in our culture, stories are being transmitted in far more text than in history books. Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie, who talks about the danger of a single story, reminds us that many stories matter. And by the way, I could easily write a dissertation on that music video. The amount of information, the amount of American history, Native American history, African American history, military history, and research that was in that one document it still amazes me every time I see it. Adichie says that many stories matter because stories have been used to dispossess and malign. But stories can also be used to empower and humanize. Stories can break the dignity of a people, but stories can also repair that broken dignity, right? And what I love about arts politics is the rapid pace at which art moves and can create a dialogue overnight with a group of people that engage with that particular art. I use a lot of psychology, and in my early education was a student of Freud and became a student of Jung later on. And Jung wrote an awesome essay on the relation of analytical psychology to poetry. And from the psychological point of view, Jung talks about art in this way. He says that the social significance of art lies in the way that it makes it possible for us to find our way back to the deepest springs of life. He goes on to say that art is constantly at work educating the spirit of the age and conjuring up forms in which the age is most lacking. That's powerful. That's a powerful call for the business of art. Constantly at work educating the spirit of the age, conjuring up the forms in which the age is most lacking. Isn't that a monumental job for art? And isn't that political? Of course it is. And E.L. Doctorow said in an essay that happened right here at NYU, right after 9/11, we were in a conference and he was here, and he wrote this essay called September 14th, 2001, where we were talking about art's place after such a disaster. And Doctorow says, and this is very important, fiction is a mega discipline that employs reportage, confession, history, myth, legend, superstition, science, religion, philosophy, and the intuitive knowledge that resides in the combination of words. It excludes no data. Everything is acceptable and equally appropriate, from the laws of physics to the mutterings of poor and mad people in the street. Proof that fiction, in fact, embraces fact. There is no pure fiction. Anything we create comes from what we already know, and in some cases have experienced. This is one of my favorite quotes in the world. Every lecture almost in every class, from the great Toni Morrison. So in times of crisis, such as right after 9/11, when we at the Tisch School of the Arts were asking, what is art's place in the world? Here's your answer. This is precisely the time when artists go to work. There is no time for despair, no place for self-pity, no need for silence, no room for fear. We speak, we write, we do language. That is how civilizations heal. That is how civilizations heal. So how do you find the politics in art when you leave here today? I ask you to think about interrogating every work of art that you see. Really look at it and see what it's saying and question it. Some of the simple and easy questions I can offer you to do that: where does the work of art come from? Like literally, where does the work of art come from? What are the forces that have shaped it? What does it reveal about its cultural self, as was the case with this music video? And how do you think the audience was anticipated in the work? I can tell you how the audience was anticipated in the work in that music video. They expected the audience to be really smart. Because I go through that frame by frame and I ask people, what does this mean? When they say Malcolm X moment, what does that mean? When there's a flag upside down, what does that mean, right? Every frame is a code and can be researched. Where does the work of art come from? What are the forces that have shaped it? What does it reveal about its culture? And how is the audience anticipated in the work? As a black woman, I can talk about black art in this way, right? I can see black art historically in America as an act of witness, right? Particularly in times of segregation, right? So black art, I can say, has recorded my unrecorded history in some history books, some unrecorded truths, some of which I just found out. I did not know that black women were calculators for NASA until I saw a movie. That's how I found out. I know about African American filmmakers like Oscar Michaud, who made films alongside with D.W. Griffith, but is seldom celebrated in the same breath. I know about Gordon Parks, the first black filmmaker to make a film in 1969. I'm happy that people had the audacity to write the book 12 Years a Slave and Hidden Figures and make the film 13th. In a political sense, these artists are saying that my existence and my history is my resistance. This is my political stance, that I am here, that I have something to say, that I can speak in many languages, many artistic languages, literature, photography, film, that I matter, and my history matters. In this kind of a process, right, art takes on a political posture in society and in culture, right? But the thing that we have to remember, and if you have time, watch Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie's Danger of a Single Story. I am not one thing. None of you are one thing. We always want to reduce each other to one thing. I am a woman, I am black, or you are white, or you are from China, or you, no. We are not one thing. We are not defined by the case that whatever maker we believe in put us in. We are many things. And we have to explore the many things that we are in each other and with each other. That's the hugest benefit of being here. I look at you and I think about, my goodness, just in this room, what you could learn from each other about the world when you have been given so many single stories, right? Take that opportunity. Every day I get up, I have to forgive myself for not knowing the complete and full history of America. And I have to forgive everybody else for not knowing my history. And I have to ask forgiveness for not knowing the history of people who come from other places, even in America. The single story, says Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie, creates stereotypes. And the problem with stereotypes is not that they are untrue, but they are incomplete. They are only one story. So I'm asking you today to think about this. Where do we look at each other and see each other? How do we look at each other and see each other? How do we get into each other's stories? And how do we reconcile the differences in our similarities and the similarities in our differences? And how do we begin today to create a common memory? And remember, all art is political. Thank you.